I start by inviting Keya Madhvani Singh on stage. So before we start today's program, all of you know Moneylife, so yeah, okay. So all of you know about Moneylife, so it doesn't need an introduction. You must have seen our video. I'm going to start today's session with a couple of caveats, okay? It is a learning session because we at Moneylife Foundation found that social media is very useful for us. We are a small, low-cost organization. It gives us a much bigger reach. And I've been telling a lot of my NGO friends and others that you must use social media in order to get your voice heard. And Twitter has been especially effective for us. Today's program came about after a meeting that we had at Moneylife. AIBA, IBOC, and their leaders here were at our office. And I've been persuading them as well that you must use social media. So I'm really glad that so many of you are here, Mr. Samya Datta, Lalita Joshi, and other friends. So let me start by asking Mr. Datta, who's come all the way from Calcutta, to welcome Keya with a bouquet of flowers. So as I said again, this is a learning session, right? So we are not going to get into what happens on Twitter, all the anger, the two sides, this opinion, that opinion, why do you do this and why don't you? We are here to learn how to use Twitter effectively. And I think I'm going to insist that we're going to stick to that, right? Is everyone agreed?
Yes, yes.
Wonderful. So let me introduce Keya to you. Keya Madhvani Singh leads the entertainment partnerships at Twitter in India. She is responsible for content acquisition, partner management and programming for music, movies, TV, lifestyle content on this platform. Prior to Twitter, Keya worked at Acumen, a social venture capital fund. She was based in New York and worked on content and special projects for the founder and the CEO. Her role included building media relations, content, and digital storytelling at Acumen and the Clinton Global Initiative. She was also the co-founder of iVote, a student-run organization focusing on civic engagement. So she's as much an activist with an activist background as all of us. She's a BA in economics from Xavier's College and has done her MS in global convergence and diplomacy from St. Anthony's College at Oxford University. These few words, I hand it over to Keya.
Yeah, I think it's fine. Thank you, Suchita. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for being here today and taking the time, especially our friends flying in from other cities. Thank you so much. So today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the platform. As you know, Suchita gave me a very kind introduction. So I lead entertainment partnerships for Twitter in India. Have been at Twitter for the past 3 and something years, which in the world of technology companies feels like a lifetime since so much is happening every single day. And I'm really excited to have a very unique audience with us. Typically, when I'm out there talking to people, it's normally people from the entertainment industry. So this is a very new crowd for me. So I really welcome your questions at the end of it, and we can try and see how Twitter can be helpful to you. So to start off, just a very basic question. How many people in the room actually have a Twitter account and use Twitter regularly? Okay, not bad. I would say 50%-ish. So this next video that I'm going to play for you is not for those 50% of you who raised your hands. It's for the 50% of you who may be afraid to use Twitter and may not have used the platform before. The video is an example of why you should not be afraid to use Twitter, and it's also pardon because we are an American company, you know, it's based in the US. So a quick introduction.
I don't know what to do. I don't understand this.
1034.
Where is he?
Second floor. Guy's a mess.
This doesn't make any sense.
Need a bullhorn?
Brought my own.
Kevin, I'm here to help. Don't worry, it's just Twitter.
But how do I even get started?
Just press the button and pick a name. Come on, Kevin, let's go Twitter.
My name's not Kevin. It's Kenny. Kenny G.
Hold on, your name is Kenny G?
Oh, the name's already taken.
Yeah, I'm less surprised than you are.
I should just quit.
How about Notorious Kenny G?
It's available. I do like that. Now it wants to know my interests. Entertainment. Comic books? Movies?
Look, I mean, there's so many people to follow. I mean, there's a lady over here that likes geodes.
Who doesn't love geodes?
Many people.
I like geodes.
Kenny, keep following.
Joe Bruin? K-pop?
Thanks for the follow.
Come on, Kenny. I want you to come out here and follow everyone.
You can do it. Just follow all.
I'm gonna follow every one of you. This is awesome.
So that was basically a video to show you that often when I'm in conversations and talking to people about Twitter, they'll say, I don't know how to start. I don't know how to get started. So that was just a short video to show you it's very easy. All you have to do is go to the app, download the app, and literally follow the instructions. So the purpose of today's presentation is twofold. One is let's understand why to tweet, and let's understand how to tweet. So those are the two things that we're going to delve into today. And at the end, of course, we'll leave some room for questions. You can also, those of you who already use Twitter, feel free to tweet along with the session. You can use the hashtag Let's Go Twitter, and so that way we can track those tweets together. So let's start with why. So often when I'm talking to people, and even in today's introduction, actually, you would have seen the presentation said that Twitter is a social media app. In some ways that's true, but in most ways it's actually not true. So as a platform, Twitter is a news app. Most people use Twitter to stay on top of the news, whether the news is in entertainment, or whether it's in business or finance, or whether it's in current affairs or politics. Twitter is what's happening. So whenever you think about an app that will tell you a good collection of what's happening in the world, imagine Twitter being that app. So like I said, Twitter is what's happening in the world and what people are talking about. And the crux of the platform at the end of the day are the people, right? So whether it's people who share a perspective with you or people who do not share a perspective of you, everybody has a perspective and they come to the platform to share that perspective. I think what keeps Twitter different from other platforms is that it allows you to connect with experts in the field. So I don't know how many of you, show of hands if you've heard of Anupama Chopra, the film critic? No? Some? I was having a conversation with her, and she actually has a huge, I guess, respect for a critic in the US. And she happened to tweet at him saying, you know, I love your work, I'm a big admirer of your work. Can you come to India and do a lecture for people in India to tell them about how your story around film critic, how did you become a film critic and what do you think is important about criticizing films? And he actually responded to her and came to India and actually did a talk. So the idea is that it allows you to connect with people who are interesting, who matter, and who maybe you otherwise wouldn't get access to. So think of it as that equalizer. Most social media platforms today have a very look at me policy. I was walking around the mall the other day and I saw these young kids, must have been, 15, 16, taking selfies of themselves. And I knew that those were going up on social media. The reality is that most people think about social media as a look at me platform. But actually what's different about Twitter is that it's a look at this platform. So for example, when Hima Das won the 400-meter race, people came to Twitter to talk about Hima Das' success. Not about how successful they are at running, but how proud that they were that the Indian beat this record. So think of Twitter as a platform to look at this as opposed to looking at me. And that's why, because of this mentality of look at this, people actually come to Twitter in a very discovery-focused mindset. So they come to the platform to try and learn things. They want to engage, they want to have a conversation, they actually want to be able to talk to people and learn from them. So this nature of discovery is very important when you're thinking about the audience you're talking to. You're not thinking about an audience that has the intention of just coming to scroll blindly through what they're seeing. They actually want to engage and have a conversation with you. So what that ends up converting to is that Twitter is a platform where you find your most valuable audiences when they're most receptive. So when they're listening, where they're keen to hear them, when they're keen to talk to you. Just before this, we were talking about this idea of customer service, right? So people, Mumbai Police is a great example of a Twitter handle that has totally transformed the way police operates in India. So they have an active team that looks at anyone who's tagging Mumbai Police on Twitter and is actually answering those complaints. So for example, a friend of ours, we were talking to them, said that they were stuck in traffic. They ended up tweeting at Mumbai Police. And even though Mumbai Police couldn't do anything because traffic is traffic at the end of the day, they did reply to them to say, looks like there's an issue, all roads are blocked where you are, please stay calm and the issue will be resolved soon. So you know that they're there to listen to you. So that idea of customer service is a really important one. So let me talk about 4 characteristics of why Twitter is what it is. One, it is live, right? So when you, for example, are watching a cricket World Cup or upcoming elections, you want to stay on top of what's happening, or even for that matter, right now what's happening with India, Pakistan, you may want to stay on top of the news. You will follow those conversations live on the platform. So Twitter really shines when there's a live event happening. Second, it's public. So what that means is every tweet you put out there is there for everyone to see. And that's something that all of us should hold with a lot of responsibility, because at the end of the day, even though it may feel like I'm just tagging Sucheta, I'm not. Everyone who follows me and follows her, and anyone who searches for both of our accounts can actually see that tweet out in the public. So it's live, it's public, it's conversational. So I can have a conversation with any of you in the room on the platform. And in fact, Moneylife tweeted just before I came here saying that this session was happening, and I immediately replied on Twitter saying I'm excited to be here and see all of you. So that idea of conversation is what differentiates the platform. And the last is distributed. So tweets travel everywhere. Now, I'm sure all of you know how actively Donald Trump uses the platform, for example. But the reality is that those tweets don't live only on Twitter. CNN covers those tweets, the New York Times cover those tweets, Times Now covers those tweets, every channel, media outlet, press outlet covers those tweets. So there's a responsibility with that, and that fact is that we have to be aware that those tweets can travel across the world. That can be a good thing, because if you're a small organization and you want to reach a large audience, you can actually use the medium to do that. So that was why should we tweet. Let's now talk about how. So all of this is great, but when it comes to actually using the platform, how do you do that? So let's start from the absolute base case of 0. I'm sorry, this may be a little bit boring for those of you who already use the platform, but I'm going to start from the basics and then we can obviously pick it up from there. So very, very basics of Twitter. When you sign into your account and you follow all of those people like the video showed you, those people that you're interested in following, you'll be taken to your home timeline. This is what your home timeline looks like. There are a few basic things for you to know. Your username is your identity. It doesn't have to be your name, but it's your handle. So for example, my handle happens to be my name, which is Keya Madhvani. It could also be something that I'm interested in. So for example, if I was really passionate about the environment, my handle could be The Environmentalist, but my name could still be Keya Madhvani. So that's the difference between a name and a handle. A hashtag is the symbol that was used to curate conversations. So when Twitter was actually originally formed, I don't know how many of you know this, but it was created as an SMS platform. So the idea was that as an SMS, user of SMS, I could text a number and that would be considered a tweet, which is why the limitation of 140 characters, because 160 characters was what an SMS was back in the day. So when the conversation started evolving on Twitter and lots of people started using the platform, there was this man who basically said, all of these conversations are happening, but I don't know how to track these conversations. So in order to track these conversations, I need a symbol that will help me store those conversations under a specific channel. So think of that hashtag as that channel, and this is a true story. There was actually a user on the platform who created the hashtag. And so the hashtag became that way to collect information under a specific topic, whether that topic is hashtag India elections, or whether that topic is hashtag environment, the environment, or whatever that issue is that you're trying to talk about. The next is a reply. Like I said, conversational platform, so you want to be able to reply to someone when they're tweeting at you, and that means you're tweeting at them. A retweet is when I endorse that person's tweet and I want to tweet that and share that out with the world, so it appears on my timeline as well. And then likes, very simple. I agree with their tweet, I want to support their tweet, so I'm going to like it and show my support for that. Twitter Explore is the Explore tab, which is that little what do you call it, like the clue, the magnifying glass. And the magnifying glass will help you discover what topics are trending on the platform. So when it comes to all of you independently, how do you build and enhance your profiles, right? So if you sign up to Twitter, you'll obviously have your timeline, which will be your profile. You'll select your username, you'll select your name, and after that you'll have to select something which we call the bio. The bio is really important because your bio is what tells people who you are. So there are 3 ways to write your bio. 1, describe what you do and your values, what you stand for. 2, tell your followers what to expect from following you. And 3, explain your product and service and link it to your company profile. So depending on who your persona is, if you're either representing your company as a leader of your company, or you're just using Twitter as a platform to start your social movement, or you're doing it as just a regular employee of a company and you want to kind of create a persona for yourself, based on that, you'll decide how to customize this. So let me show you 2 good examples of great bios out there. One is Richard Branson, of course, who we all know. His bio reads, tie-loathing adventurer, philanthropist and troublemaker who believes in turning ideas into reality, otherwise known as Dr. Yes at Virgin. So that is his personality. That's what encompasses not only his professional personality but also his personal personality, which we know is a little bit of a thrill seeker and adventurer. And then Vani Kola, venture capitalist, I actually can't read it from here, but I'm sure you all can read it, and who is at Kalari Capital. So she talks about, being a mom and also being, professional, and that's what defines her personality. So when you think about how to tweet, what to tweet, right? I love this tweet because it really encapsulates the essence of what it is about. Tweet simple. Your lead line is what you want people to think. Your link hashtag is what you want them to do. And your image video is how you want them to feel. So people actually have a sense that Twitter is only a platform for words. That was true at one point in time, but not anymore. You can use video, you can use images to describe what you're doing and experiencing, and actually link that to what you're talking about. So again, think of what do you want your consumers to think, and your consumers are obviously your audiences. That's your active statement. What do you want them to do? What is the call to action? So if you're actually tweeting something, you want people, for example, to contribute to your cause, or you want people to sign up for a workshop, or you want people to support a change-making statement. That link is what that represents. And how do you want them to feel? At the end of the day, we all know that people respond best to feelings. When they feel something and they're emotionally connected to what you're talking about, they're more likely to engage with what you're saying. And so you want to use the image or the video over there to actually create that feeling of connection. So let's talk through some key principles about tweeting. Number 1, keep it brief. So Twitter is known as a platform for brevity, and that is actually true. The briefest and most succinct tweets do the best. Initially it was 140 characters, like I explained, because of the SMS constraint. The interesting story over here is that we found that Japan was a market that was using Twitter in a very interesting way. And we were wondering why Japan uses it so interestingly, but other markets like maybe Germany don't use it as well. And what we discovered through our research was that words in Japan are smaller. So words in Japanese are smaller and they convey a lot more emotion. Whereas words in German, if you've seen German words, they're long. So what ended up happening was 140 characters were not enough to convey the same emotion in German as it was to convey the same emotion in Japanese. And that's actually true of our Indic languages as well. Different languages have different constraints. Some languages in the south, for example, are longer words, whereas in the north we have shorter words. And so those things actually have an impact on how people use the medium. So we expanded it from 140 to 280 characters because of that. But what we found is that people still actually, when they need to, only use 140 characters. Behavior doesn't change. They enjoy the brevity, they enjoy the briefness. And so I'd encourage you all, when you tweet, to keep it simple. I chose this tweet because obviously, this movie called Period End of Sentence won an Oscar award just last week. And the producer of that film was an Indian, Guneet Monga. And so I love this message because it's so simple and it conveys so much emotion and feeling. And of course, it's clear by everyone's responses how happy they were and to support her win. The second is focus your message. So convey what you're trying to say with an image and use that image to support what you're saying. So this person has tweeted, icons watching icons watching icons, which is true of what she's seeing. And that's actually, obviously the gateway of India. So let the image support what you're trying to say and be clever with your words. Don't be afraid to try and be kind of innovative and creative. The next is incorporate hashtags. Often I see people tweeting with 20 hashtags in one tweet and nothing much to say. That doesn't really help your message. Think of a hashtag as something that is helping you in a very strategic way. So in this case, we had someone who was tweeting to engage fans in a Q&A session on Twitter, and he just used a very simple hashtag. Hashtag ask LKG, which was the movie. Now, by using that hashtag, it's very clear what he's asking people to do. He's asking people to ask him questions, right? So it's one hashtag, it's simple, it's clear. It's not 50 hashtags. That does not increase your discoverability. It just annoys people because nobody wants to see so many hashtags on a tweet. They want to actually follow you to learn what you have to say. And then the last one is, second last one is being conversational. So in this case, sometimes we tweet from the Twitter India handle saying, which is our public handle that represents India, what is going on, to tell you what's going on in India on Twitter and what's interesting. Often we'll just tweet a simple thing like this one, which I think is, so I think it was just a simple question, kya ho raha hai? And people responded with a bunch of different responses. It didn't say much, but it engaged with people, and we realized that people were more likely to respond to a tweet that was asking a question than that one that wasn't, because at the end of the day, at a very base level, people want to respond. So I think if I remember clearly, the tweet was, kya ho raha hai? Somebody responded saying, nahi batayenge, and then there was another response from us with the monkey covering his eyes. So Twitter is about having a conversation, ask a question, and people will be more likely to respond. And then this one is a really fun one, which is, you have to kind of be, I guess, plugged into the internet culture and the internet language, which is its own language kind of that lives by itself on the internet. But in this example, there was this trend going on digital media where a bunch of people had tweeted, we really, lots of reallys with one statement. And Google tweeted this initially, and then a bunch of other handles decided to capture that trend and started replying to it. So one of my favorite responses was actually this one from Bombay Stock Exchange, which you wouldn't expect to be very pop culture-y in their references, but they were good, and they said, we really encourage you to be careful about addressing the messages when somebody tweets you things that you should not be listening to. So it was a public service message, but they did it in a funny, entertaining way. And this ended up being one of their top 3 most retweeted tweets of all time. So it's clear that people want this kind of lighter side of the internet, and they enjoy that. So let's go into the last bit, which is what. And in this section, I really want to give you a few key examples of people who have used the platform well. So let's take into account these 3 different kinds of people, right? We have an entrepreneur, we have a founder, and we have a designer. Entrepreneur Alexa von Tobel. Her bio reads, I am a dreamer, founder, CEO of LearnVest, working hard to make financial advice accessible for millions of Americans, New York Times bestselling author, CFP, and new mom. That's her bio. We have a founder who says company builder, ex-Google, Amazon, all of her company's names, and then she also sends a hashtag, which is, I think, choose responsibility, which is what she wants to advocate. And then the last one is a designer who says artist, activist, inventor, designer of intelligent things, etc., etc. So you can see that each person has created their bio very clearly, like Richard Branson did to encapsulate what they're trying to say and who they are. And then they carry that idea of who they are through to their tweets. So for example, the entrepreneur, her main headline is financial and entrepreneurial guidance. So all of her tweets focus around this idea of financial and entrepreneurial guidance. She's very consistent with her messaging. Think of it as her public persona, right? So she wants to be clear, she wants to build a career in this field, she wants to be known as this person, and so she's very clear on how she has to represent that person. Sure, occasionally we may use our Twitter accounts to complain about something or engage in a conversation that's not necessarily true to our brand, but that is true to who you are. But just be mindful of the fact that while you tweet, you want to be clear about who you are and what you're trying to convey, so what your message is out there to the world. Similar with this founder, whose kind of main themes are female leadership, guidance, and empowerment. These are the things and the issues that are important to her, so her entire account represents that. And lastly, for the designer, it's about inspiring creativity and design. So she wants to be sure that people use her account as inspiration and are inspired by her creativity and keen sense of design, and hopefully will kind of learn from her in the process. So coming up to kind of wrap up the session, I wanted to share with you some of the suite of products that we offer to everyone who uses the platform. So you don't have to do anything to gain access to this other than download the app and sign up for an account. And what you'll get access to is uploading Twitter video. So you can record a video and upload it. I use this actually quite often, especially in cases of I guess if I want to alert the government about something. So for example, when there was a fire outside my building, I recorded a video and I tweeted it at the fire department so that they saw where the location was. So that's one interesting way of using it. But you could also talk about, literally if you want to say something that you think is maybe not possible to convey in words, you can record a small video of you talking about your message and then upload that onto Twitter. Live video is kind of similar, where we see people using it in very interesting ways when they're in a moment. So actually, interestingly, the time we saw live video on Twitter work phenomenally well was when there are crises, right? So when there is, for example, an earthquake or a relief effort. During the floods actually in Kerala, a lot of people were broadcasting content live from their Twitter handles, and it was actually helping the thing is that if it's live, it's authentic. So that is something that keeps the authenticity of the video. And then GIFs are just fun ways of expression. So if you go into your Twitter handle, you'll see a little button called GIF, and GIF is just something that you can use an animated picture to express yourself. Polls are when you want to seek feedback from the audience. So we've actually seen musicians use this in a very interesting way. If they're deciding their tour, right? So which country, which cities to go on tour, they'll tweet out saying, I'm planning to go to Bangalore, Delhi, Bombay, Chennai. Which city should I go to next? And people can vote based on what they want. So that way they can actually influence an outcome. Moments are short digests. Think of them as little stories and series of tweets that live together. So for example, if you click on your Explore tab on your Twitter app and you scroll down, you'll see a bunch of moments, and those will give you a collection of the best insights on that specific topic. For the sake of full transparency, while Twitter doesn't I guess, mess with your timeline, so we don't, editorialize your timeline. That is exactly based on who you follow. we do editorialize moments. So we actually pick tweets to curate moments, and there is a team that decides what moments get made based on what conversations are happening on the platform. But they're always neutral, and they rarely ever take a side one way or the other. So quickly going into just these few last points, you want to master the basics. So use pictures. You can use multiple images. So you can use up to 4 images on Twitter in one tweet. Not all pictures are created equally. So make the picture related to your tweet copy, like I mentioned. Don't just randomly post a picture and without any context. That often doesn't help. You can use native video, so you can upload video onto the platform. And then, while we allow video uploads up to 10 minutes in length, try to keep your video length to about 140 seconds is what we recommend. So about 2-ish minutes or less. And with that, thank you for your attention. I'd love to take any questions if anyone has any.
The WhatsApp has been very popular.
Sorry?
WhatsApp
Yeah.
is something which is everybody is saying. But because of the socio-political people discuss, people do not know what to discuss. There are administrative controls which are, even the police are monitoring the WhatsApp. Do you think such things could happen in Twitter? Because to be very frank, the people in this country do not know what to discuss when and where in a public space. So this is again a public platform. So do you think the administrative control, because social, any issue people tweet and then it could land up into trouble. So do you think the administrative control would help, or it is required, or are they there?
It's a very good question. I think, especially on WhatsApp, things tend to spread very quickly, and we all are part of those family groups where we see 1,000 WhatsApp messages a day. So I know that WhatsApp is thinking about how to combat that issue, especially in terms of spreading fake news. On Twitter, of course, we are working on that issue as well. One of the priorities for the company in the last year or so has become health and making sure that people feel safe on the platform. In fact, we have a much smaller team than Facebook does, and still I would say, often I'm asked by people, why don't you launch any interesting features? Why aren't you launching augmented reality? Why aren't you thinking about our product team that designs our product is so focused on abuse on the platform that they are just solely working on that. And especially when it comes to elections, it becomes really important to be able to moderate that conversation. So there are a few tools that we actually encourage our users to use. One of them is a report feature. So when you see a tweet that may be inflammatory, or that may be spreading kind of false information, or that frankly is abusive against you, we encourage people to report that tweet by pressing the button on the right side of the tweet. You'll see a little down arrow. Tap that down arrow, and then you'll have a button that will come up that says report. Use that liberally. Like, you want to report 50 tweets a day, you want to report 5,000 tweets a day, go for it. Like, the more reporting, the better, because that helps us stay accountable. The second is, sometimes, a conversation can be distracting and can be something that you don't want to hear about, but you still want to use the medium. So there's a feature called mute. Mute actually enables you to quiet down a particular conversation. So you can say, I choose to mute a specific hashtag. If you find a hashtag disturbing or that you don't want to see information about. Unlike WhatsApp, where you really don't have control over what's coming at you, in the case of Twitter, we try to give that control to you, so you can actually mute that conversation and say, I don't want to hear anything about this issue, and you won't see that on your timeline. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist on the platform, but you won't see it. The last feature is block, and block is a feature where you're allowed to block a particular person from the platform for you. So you can actually say that, for example, sorry, my colleague Cheryl is in the audience, so not to use her example, but in case Cheryl's tweets are not interesting to you, you can block Cheryl and you won't be able to see her tweets anymore. She won't know that you've blocked her, so she won't be aware, but you can block that person. So yes, there are steps that the team is taking to combat those issues, but I think at the core of the platform, it's a platform for expression. So we try to kind of curb the abuse on the platform, but we don't want to suppress any specific perspective.
You see, what happened in what's that?
So we'll have one question, please, and I want to ask the next one just to
Sure.
expand on what you said. One of the things that we as business journalists have found is that a lot of companies are very sensitive to what is tweeted.
Yeah.
And we have ended up telling people that you often tweet your complaint and it gets resolved faster.
Yes.
So would you share some of your experiences on how companies have been using Twitter and how effective is that?
Yeah, I would say I'll give kind of a personal example, I guess, as a consumer of the platform, what I experienced. So I had booked a ticket on, one of the aggregating websites. So, Make My Trip, Go Ibibo, Clear Trip, one of those websites. And they ended up essentially charging me double of what I was meant to be charged on that platform. So I, being the responsible consumer, called the consumer service number and tried to raise it with them saying, you've charged me double, you've withdrawn this amount from my credit card, please refund that amount. They were very responsive on the phone. They said, yeah, we lodged your complaint, we'll take care of it. One day goes by, nothing happens. 2 days goes by, nothing happens. We all have the same experience. And so eventually I called them again. I said, listen, I've called 2 days ago. You said that you'd refund my money. You still haven't refunded my money. I've got no email communication. I've got no message communication. You have my email, my phone number, my address. You have all my information. Send me something so that I know that that is being resolved. 1 day goes by, no response. 2 days goes by, no response. And then at that point I said, okay, I've done my best as a responsible consumer. I've tried to raise this issue. They're not responding. I need to take this to public forum. So I tweeted at them. Very simple. I just said something very polite. I wasn't rude, but I said, listen, this is the issue. This is my confirmation number. You haven't refunded my money. I kid you not. Within 3 minutes, I got a response saying, okay, we'll take care of it. Within 1 hour, I had the money debited back into my account. So the challenge, they actually use the medium effectively, right? So what I would definitely say is companies need to become better at responding in general. But I think specifically when it is public, everyone is worried about their public image, and so it ends up being more important to them. And so I would say use your Twitter account to engage with these companies. Most companies in India do have accounts that you can follow, that you can search and respond to. And it behooves companies also to use the medium effectively to communicate with their consumers. It's such an easy, free way of doing that. So they definitely should make the most of it. I don't know if that answers your question, Suchita.
Yeah, it does.
There was a series of fires in Bombay, number of buildings, and a lot of people have died. So in what way we can use Twitter as a consumer, as a fire brigade people, or as a security firm, whether we can work on something specifically so that the number of people who die will get reduced?
Yeah. See, at the end of the day, Twitter is a platform for communication, but it's not replacing the work of the people who actually have to take care of those issues, right? So as a bystander, when you see something like that, what I would do if I were you is raise it with the relevant departments. So fire department is on Twitter, Mumbai police is on Twitter. Tweet at them, show them the evidence so that they can respond. We've actually had really effective programs with both the Ministry of Railways and the Ministry of External Affairs. I don't know how many of you follow Sushma Swaraj on Twitter, but she's constantly replying personally to people, and if they have issues with passports, with visas. A honeymoon couple once was supposed to go on their honeymoon. One of the wife did not get her passport in time. So the husband tweeted at Sushma Swaraj saying, see, I'm sitting on the plane without my wife and I'm going on the honeymoon alone. Within 1 hour, he got a response directly from Sushma Swaraj's Twitter handle saying, we'll take care of it, raise it with our team and send us the details of her passport over DM, private message, and we'll respond. So it's up to the government to kind of take those initiatives and be responsive. But as Twitter as a platform, we do work with especially public services to help them understand how to use the platform better. And they've actually done a really good job, especially the police and the External Affairs Ministry.
Can I?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for a wonderful, informative talk. I come here largely because of my respect for Dalal for all these years. I am a documentary filmmaker and a writer, and a film columnist for The Hindu. But somehow or the other, I'm extremely diffident and afraid of all these media platforms. But somehow or the other, because two of my books are going to be published this year, and one of them is a book of poems.
Yeah.
And I was forced by my brother to go, and especially because of the respect for Sucheta, I came here and wanted to learn.
Yeah.
How can this book of poems can be held by a platform like Twitter?
First of all, thank you for taking the time and coming. I hope it was useful to you.
It was, especially for the fact that somebody who knows the multimedia both before and behind the camera for the last 30 years, yet this is something, Twitter, Facebook and all, which I'm extremely afraid of.
Yeah.
Because of the fact, the way the WhatsApp is going on,
yeah.
so I just try to keep away. But now, because everybody says that it could be great help to me for my books,
yeah.
Can you just be a little more of a help?
Sure. So, absolutely. So, actually my colleagues who are sitting here with me, we all work with authors as well as publishers and talk to them about how to use the platform better. I think the best case example that I can give you is actually of Amitav Ghosh. So when he wrote his recent book, I think, well, recent 2 years ago actually now, and it was talking about the environment, he is actually someone who's quite, like you describe yourself, not necessarily interested in having that kind of public persona on the internet, wanted to kind of keep his privacy and not necessarily be active on the platform. But his publisher suggested that he use the platform to promote his book. And so we told him, listen, at the end of the day, you are an author, you know how to use your words. Why don't you come to our space, we'll have a conversation and we'll live stream the whole discussion on the platform. So you don't have to worry about actually tweeting. It's like you and I having a conversation here. It's currently being live streamed. And we're able to share what we're talking about with the world. So if you do have that reservation, I would say video is a good, easy way to start because it's actually representing who you are. You don't have to worry about tweeting and replying and engaging in that way early on. But as a user in general, before kind of getting to that place, I would say just explore the medium as a quiet spectator. So step one is always, the way a colleague of mine likes to explain it, when you go to a party or you go to a public space, you first always take a step back. You look at what's happening, you kind of see what the dynamics are, you see who's talking to whom, what are the interesting things that are happening, and then you take a step forward and say, okay, maybe that person looks like someone I want to approach, maybe that person looks like someone interesting that I want to talk to. So take that approach, join the platform, stay quiet, just look at what's happening, and then after time and after you feel confident, do a video talking about your book, what inspired you to write it. And who knows, maybe people will be inspired to kind of take up, their own courses of action after that. But I would say explore, stay quiet, observe, and then engage.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Can you retract it or erase it? And also, is there anything like an anonymous tweet?
Good questions. Yes and no on the first part. Okay, so to be completely honest, you can obviously delete your tweet. So if I tweet something, I can delete it. But if it even lives on Twitter for 5 minutes, there's a chance that someone has seen that tweet. So you won't be able to erase it from people's memory, but you will be able to delete that tweet from your profile.
Further people can't.
Exactly. Further people can't see it.
You can retract.
You can. I never advise people to do that because once you've taken the initiative to put something out there, you've put it with the kind of knowledge that it's going out, right? You may have second thoughts. I would then advise you to reply to that tweet and explain. Yeah, but the problem is, Sucheta probably knows about this better than anyone. People on the platform will always screenshot, right? Because at the end of the day, it's a public platform. So somebody could screenshot that tweet of yours and they'll have it in their record before you delete it, right? Because you've taken a picture of what is existing on the platform. So I would never delete a tweet unless you absolutely have to. I would explain if you have a change of heart, and most people are willing to listen. Now, the second question, which is whether you can have a private account, yes. So you can have an anonymous account where you don't affiliate with yourself. I mean, you don't kind of tell people who you are. But what would be even better is if you want to have a private account, so you can actually keep your tweets private. So you don't have to actually share those tweets with the world. You can only selectively approve a certain set of people seeing those tweets from you, and then that gives access only to those people who you've pre-approved. So you can actually limit that and keep it a private account.
Yeah, thank you for your outpouring on the Twitter. My question is that it has been said the more the follower, it enhances the value of your handle. So give me some tips how to increase it.
You're asking the question, sir, but I'm sure a lot of people have thought about that. So yeah. So, okay, I mean, it's not easy to do, but I think in order to grow your follower base, the best way to do it is to keep active on the platform. So, I would say maybe 3 tips, okay? Tip 1, stay active. So, use the platform every day. If you're passive and you're not saying anything, it'll be hard for people to discover you. Step 2, have a conversation with more people. So tweet at people who you may have met today, for example. Share your handle with them. Tell them that I'm on Twitter at this handle. Maybe follow me. 3, share your Twitter handle in all of your communications. So for example, if you have an email account, your signature in your email account can have your Twitter handle. The only way to have more people follow you on Twitter is by actually putting your name out there, just like it's with any other medium. If I want people to know me, then I have to kind of go out there and introduce myself to people. So it's the same way. So don't be afraid to do that, and over time you'll be able to grow your Twitter following. The only thing I'd caution you to do is don't only focus on that number, because I know people who have 200, 300 followers but are very impactful on the platform, and I know there are people with 1 million followers who say nothing of consequence. So it's not as important how many followers you have, it's what you say, because a tweet can travel, right? If you say something smart that makes sense to me, I'm willing to share that, so I retweet it. And then my followers can see that tweet, and then their followers can see that tweet, and then that's how it kind of travels. It doesn't matter that you have only 200 followers, right? You can leverage everybody else's followers. So a smarter way to look at it is not how many followers you have, but how many followers the people who follow you have. So if you have 10 high quality followers, that's much more impactful than having 1,000 low quality followers. That's what I would say. Sorry, maybe him and then.
I represent All India Back Office's Confederation here. I have 2 questions. One is how to deal with fake handles.
Okay.
Second is, what do you really mean by trending? Is there any minimum number of tweets in a hashtag, that will make it eligible to say that it's trending? And who decides what is trending?
Okay, so just can you talk a little bit more about your first question? What do you mean by fake handles?
As I said, I represent the All India Bank Officers Confederation here, and I have seen few handles like AIBOC, which are not official.
Okay, good question. That one's a simple one to fix, and you can have a conversation with my colleague Priya here in the first row afterwards. She actually manages all of our support, so anyone who has issues with things like that, impersonation is what we call that, you can report that to her, and then we can take that handle down. As long as you have the official handle and you prove that you are the official owner of that handle, or you represent that company in an official capacity, so we'll need to see proof of that, and then we can take down any handles that attempt to impersonate you. So this happens quite a bit with public personas, as you can imagine, which is why there is what you call the verification sign, because it verifies that this is the public persona. It verifies that your handle is the official handle, and that all the other handles that may pop up are unofficial, but those handles can be taken down. So that was the first question. The second question was around trending and kind of what determines trending. Trending is, so when the platform launched, it was about what was happening in your community, what was happening in your locality, what was happening in your country. And the way to see that was, how do you tell that an issue is important enough, right? Most likely an issue is important, if it is tweeted about a lot. So there are a lot of people tweeting about the same issue, right? Like the fire that the gentleman explained earlier. If a lot of people are tweeting about that fire, it's likely that there is a genuine issue over there. So in order to raise that issue up as an important issue that people should be aware of, because Twitter is a platform for what's happening, we launched trending. So the idea was, these are the topics that are most relevant, most important for your area and your locality. Having said that, trends have often been manipulated by people in the future, right? So that was the purpose of the trends. Now I see sometimes people trend topics based on political support, or based on an issue that, for example, a movie launch or stuff like that. Those are trends that you can actually report as an active consumer of the platform. So you can say that this doesn't feel like an important trend. I can report that trend and we can take that down. In terms of what determines a trend from trending and who decides that, there's no fixed number of tweets. There's a variety of factors that decide what trends. One is the velocity of tweets. So hypothetically, if everyone in this room takes out their phones and starts tweeting about me, I will not trend, because even though there may be 50, 60, 100 people in this room, it's located in a very specific area. So it's all tweeting from a specific area, it's all tweeting about a very specific thing, so it will not trend. If there are issues that are people that are spread out over a larger geographical area that are tweeting about an issue, then that becomes a trending topic. So that's one, is velocity, right? How fast people are tweeting, how frequently people are tweeting, what is the momentum around those tweets. There are some issues that will always technically be trending otherwise. Like, for example, if everybody talks about their lunch every day, then if they use the hashtag lunch, then lunch will automatically trend. So there's a very advanced algorithm that actually looks at those factors and determines those factors. It's not a person that decides that, it's a computer essentially. We'll give another.
So when is the edit button coming?
Oh gosh.
And why has it taken so long to come?
So Jack's done our CEO Jack Dorsey has done a lot of interviews about this recently. The edit button is something that has never existed on the platform because of the very nature of the platform, right? Yeah, so if you're taking, similar to your question, if you're taking the intentional effort to tweet something, we don't want you to be able to go and manipulate what you're saying in the future. So supposing I tweet something innocuous like, I love strawberries, and everybody who loves strawberries starts retweeting that tweet, and that tweet gets a lot of momentum and it travels around the world, and there's 3,000 people or 5,000 people or 5 million people tweeting about strawberries. If I then have an edit button, I could go and edit that into something less innocuous, right? So how do we control that? You can't control that. You have retweeted my tweet because you believe that you love strawberries as well. You've not retweeted my tweet because of whatever else I could manipulate that into. So that's the fundamental reason why there isn't an edit button, to prevent bad actors from taking advantage of that. Having said that, a lot of people are like, why do you assume the worst? Maybe I just want to edit the spelling mistake I made.
It's the typos.
The typos. And so one of the things that Jack has been thinking about and the team has been thinking about is, maybe there's a time limit on it. Like, you can only edit for 30 seconds or only. So there's no answer to your question. It's still a work in progress, and I don't know if it'll come anytime soon, but it's a consideration that's being taken at the company.
How does one get the blue tick? Do I come and tell you that I want a blue tick, or it is you who finally grants the blue tick?
So like I said to that gentleman, the verification is not anything other than a certificate of authenticity, right? To say that you are who you say you are, and which is why you have been verified. Right now, public verification has been paused Part of this reason again is because we were looking at things too black and white. So we were saying that anyone who has, a certain public persona is verifiable. But what we didn't take into account was that people attribute certain significance to that tick. So now if I see that someone with a public persona is verifiable, I might consider that in a different way. I might say that that person is an authority on a subject, or I might consider that that person is an expert on a particular topic. That's not what we're trying to say by verifying them, but that's what people were attributing the verification tick to. So we paused it to figure out how to do this better and how to solve that problem. And in the time being, anyone who needs verification because of some issue of emergency can raise it to the team, but it's not kind of open for general public anymore.
Hi. My question was exactly that. How does one, get the handle verified since you stopped public verification, other than paying lakhs of rupees to private agencies who are...
That, by the way, please don't do that. That is not authentic. No private agencies have been licensed to verify accounts. I hear this a lot, and it's actually very damaging because there's some third party out there who said, we don't charge money for verification, we don't charge money for tweets, we don't charge money for anything. Twitter is a free platform. So yeah, if you ever hear this, please, encourage your peers as well not to pay any money for...
You said that, you contact the team to get verified.
Yeah.
Which team does one contact?
So right now, the Twitter handle is @TwitterSupport. There's a DM, open direct message, which you can click on, and you can tweet at them, DM them, saying, this is my handle, this is who I represent, this is why I believe myself to be verifiable. I can't promise you that the answer will be a quick response. There is a huge backlog of requests, as you can imagine. So the team is working through it, so it can take several months even, but they'll respond to you. Sorry, I can't hear you.
Can you repeat the handle?
@TwitterSupport.
Hello. Just two questions. The tweets which I see or which I get, is there any manipulation or algorithm that works behind it on what I can see and what I generally don't get to see? That's one. Second thing is, which are the governing laws on the normal Twitter users? Is it the ITA Act of 2000 and all those sections come into play, or any other laws that work for it?
So to answer your first question, everything on Twitter is in reverse chronology. So that means that on your timeline you'll see the most recent tweets on top, and as you scroll through you'll see less recent tweets. What we found was that kind of extensive amount of information wasn't always what people enjoyed. Right now, if I follow 1,000 people and the 1,000 people are tweeting, twice a day, that's a lot of tweets to go through. So instead of manipulating that chronological timeline, we started inserting sections into your timeline which recommend the tweets that or from people that you engage most with. So now supposing of the 1,000 people you follow, maybe 20 of them are people who you regularly like to be updated from. And when I say that, I mean you most regularly reply to them, you most regularly like their tweets, you most regularly retweet their tweets. So the algorithm is looking at your engagement pattern and will serve you a section in your timeline called While You Were Away. And While You Were Away will be a selection of 5 to 8 tweets that the algorithm believes are most relevant to you. If you feel like the algorithm is messed up and it's not suggesting something that's relevant to you, you can immediately click on the top right button and say that these are not relevant suggestions, and the algorithm will learn. Having said that, if you feel like you want your reverse chronological timeline, you don't care for this While You Were Away section, you want to remain in, like, the integrity of the platform is important to you, you just have to click on the top left button, which is the home button, and it will immediately circle back to your original reverse chronological timeline. So while we insert those sections, we don't actually mess with the chronological nature of the timeline. To your second question, we're an American company, so we're bound by American laws, and there are terms of service that you use when you sign up to Twitter. So if you want a document of that, I'm happy to share the link to you with you, but that's essentially the terms of service when you sign up. And if there are laws that kind of apply in country, those will be stated over there. I'm not an expert in that, frankly. I'm not on the legal team, so I don't know, but I can share those links with you if that's important.
Hi, Keya. Could you explain a little bit about how content and media partnerships work at
Yeah.
Twitter? And also if there is any specific focus to develop Indian language content partnerships?
Yeah. So as a member of the content team, my job is to get a pulse of what Twitter, what people in India care about, and work with the relevant publishing houses, which could be news channels or production houses or celebrities or sports leagues, and bring that content to the platform. So in terms of media partnerships, some of our most active community members on the platform are journalists, and that's really important to us because at the end of the day, journalists hold all of us accountable, and so we want to be able to encourage those partnerships. So we have a very specialized news team that works with media companies, led by a person who is based in Delhi. So if there's specific ideas you have, feel free to approach me and I can, talk to you about those. Sorry, there was a second part, regional languages. Regionalization is really, really important to us. I think, sometimes, even for us, being in an American company in India, even though we're employees of Twitter India, we still have to advocate because our team is based in the US, right? The product team is based in the US. And one of the pieces of feedback they're constantly sending back is that tweets in English are a very small percentage of tweets out there. Hindi, lots of people are actively tweeting in Hindi. Lots of people actively tweeting in Tamil, in Telugu, and in Bengali and Marathi. Those are the languages we see most active. Gujarati, most active than beyond English. So it is a heavy focus for us. I don't think we're doing a good enough job to bring enough voices from those perspectives. So all of last year, actually, I spent 6 months traveling back and forth from Chennai to build a network over there and kind of communicate with people, publishers over there, to bring more Tamil onto Twitter. And it was very rewarding to see, actually, that when we looked at our analytics for the full year for 2018, of the top 10 most loudest moments on the platform, 7 out of those 10 moments were Tamil and Telugu related. So it's really encouraging to see, the community is interested and active on the platform. But if you have any suggestions or connections, I'd be happy to talk to you afterwards. Maybe we'll give someone else a chance.
Good evening, ma'am.
Yeah.
I came from Allahabad.
Oh, all the way for this?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And I already tweeted 12,000 tweet regarding the bank merger and the bankers issues. The problem is what I am feeling. I have 3 questions. The first is, when I am tweeting some content, what I am feeling, what I am seeing, people are just, instead of retweeting, they are copying this tweet and they retweeted again, they tweeted on their account.
Sorry, I just wanted
copy
to...
paste, okay, sorry. They are doing copy paste that tweet. Instead of retweeting, they are doing the copy paste my content. First, second problem what I am seeing, there is a difference between retweeting and retweeting with comments. One option is there. So that, what is the difference between both?
Okay.
And the third, if I am tagging like our Prime Minister and our others, so whether he is only seeing that or his all followers is going to see that tweet, my tweet. If I am tagging you, suppose I am tagging you, then your all followers will see that tweet or only you will see?
Okay. So, so first question was about the copy pasting. So copy pasting, are they attributing it to you? So are they saying that it's your tweet that they're copy pasting, or they're just blankly copy pasting and not attributing it to you? But do they put your name over there, or they just copy paste it? Yeah. 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 So that's a tough question because it's very easy to do that on the platform. Frankly, it's easy to do that on the internet in general. So I don't know if that's a Twitter specific problem. But if there is, for example, some material that you put up that is copyright specific, so you already have a copyright law, we have a kind of a copyright, you've taken a trademark or a registration of that specific content, then you can file a complaint against that. Unfortunately, if you don't, there's not much you can do. You can report the tweet, so you can report it saying that this person has copied my content, but it may not always be a violation of our terms of service. So I don't have a better answer for you there, but that's something that I'll look into. The second question was around, sorry, what was the second question? Correct, understood. This gentleman reminded me. So one is retweet, which is the RT. The second is something called quote tweet. Now imagine you've tweeted, taking the strawberries example, saying, I love strawberries. I've retweeted I love strawberries because I agree with you 100%. I agree that I love strawberries and so I'm willing to endorse that tweet. What if I like strawberries only in winter? So I can quote tweet that and I say, I like strawberries but only in winter. So think of a quote tweet as a way to add a little bit more commentary on what that person has originally tweeted. So that's the difference between a quote tweet and a retweet. That's a fresh tweet, yes, absolutely. The third question was around tagging people. So if you tag me, I will get a notification in my mentions. So on my app, I will see a notification and I'll know that you've tagged me in that tweet. But anyone can see that tweet if they search for my handle. So if anyone searches for @Keya Madhvani, they'll be able to see your tweet at me.
I want to tag the media person, like any media channel, then what I have to do?
You have to just mention them. So you just have to use their handle if you want to tag, say, Times of India, @Times of India, and that will appear in their timeline. That will appear in their mention tab.
What if I want to, if I have any question or something, I want to raise that issue on an international level or national level. I hashtag you and tag a media person also. Till they will not see that or they will not redo it, it will not going to visible for other person, na?
No, it is visible, but be careful about why you're using that feature, right? Like you don't want to, if it's an issue of national importance, then sure, you share your perspective, but be responsible with what you're tweeting is what I would say. Sometimes I find people are quite not thoughtful about how they tweet, so we should all be kind of responsible about that. If there is an issue that you want to raise, definitely raise it with them. But if the issue you're raising is not that important, then they're probably not going to reply to you. So that's the reality of it. So I would just say tweet responsibly.
Who will find out whether it is important or not?
I think we'll move on, sir. We can take this offline. Thank you.
I'm Tahir from Mumbai. I'm not on Twitter, but I will after this meeting.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to know what is your revenue model?
What is our revenue model?
Because it's such a big company, you're giving such a wonderful service.
Yeah.
How you generate the revenue?
So we do not sell our service. So you don't pay for Twitter. It's free. But obviously, if it's free, there has to be some way we're making money. And the way we make money is through advertising. So when you, sorry? Yeah, most I would say most kind of internet companies, do it through advertising. But essentially, or I should say most free services do through advertising. So if you look on your timeline, you will see all the tweets, right, in reverse chronological order, so they'll be on there. Occasionally, you'll see a tweet with a little bit of a break, and that tweet will say promoted by. So there will be a classification at the bottom saying promoted by Maruti, and it will be an image of Maruti's car or whatever service they're trying to sell you. So that's how we make our money. We sell that promoted tweet as inventory to advertisers.
Hello.
Yes, sir. I can't hear your question. Sorry? Open?
Open source spying.
Open source spying. And?
And stalking other users. Do you have an algorithm which can detect or diagnose such kind of?
We don't have an algorithm to detect that, but we rely on people to report that. So going back to the tool that we talked about, and that's a very important issue you raise, it's an important concern. If people are being harassed or abused in any way, we encourage them to report it. Our report team is actually based, our support team is based in India, so they understand cultural context and they will be able to solve that issue immediately. So we'll give more. Maybe maybe 2 more questions, Suchita, if that's okay. What's it? Another maybe 10 minutes.
So my question is in connection with one of the brothers asked just now. Basically, this is about business accounts that we have on Twitter.
Sorry, ma'am, I can't hear you very clearly.
This is basically about the business accounts that we have at Twitter.
A business account?
Yes.
Yeah.
So can I have my login used for both the things, like for business purposes as well and for my personal usage as well? And second question is that when we are putting advertisements on Twitter, is it to trend the conversation, or is it to promote services or products that we are dealing with?
Good question. So in terms of your profile, I would say that there's no way to have one profile access 2 accounts. You'll have to create 2 separate profiles. So if you have your personal profile and then if you have your business profile, those 2 can live separately. There's no way to really link those 2 together. I guess there is when you get to kind of an advanced stage, but for most consumers it's very complicated, so I would say just maintain 2 separate accounts. In terms of advertising and what you want to advertise, there are various products. So like one of the products I explained was promoted tweets. There's another product which is called the promoted trend, and that promoted trend lives on the trends page as the first trend. So the first trend will always say promoted by. So I don't have my phone on me, but if you open your phone and you go to the trending section, you'll be able to see the first trend on the list of trends is the promoted by trend. That's a purchase trend by a brand. Every other trend is an organic trend. So only one trend a day is allowed to be purchased. Like that gentleman kind of indicated, like, you know, people pay for verification. I have heard of people also charging for trending, like agents charging for trending. That's not legitimate. Don't purchase those trends. If you want to purchase a trend, you'd have to come straight to Twitter. Only trust an @twitter.com email address. Don't trust any other email addresses saying they represent Twitter. You know, we're a very industrious nation, so there will always be people who kind of pop up and create side businesses, but none of those are authentic. So I would advise you to park your money and not spend it there. Sorry.
Namaste, ma'am. I represent Agok and from Ahmedabad.
Yeah.
One question is that is there any scheduling for tweeting? Is it the option there?
Yes.
And is it true that to remain in a trending, you should tweet in the morning or some first half of the day? Is it true that we listen? It is.
You heard this from someone? Okay. So on the first question, if you can schedule tweets, yes, you can schedule tweets. There's a software called TweetDeck, tweetdeck.com. It's a platform that's owned by Twitter, so it's an authentic platform. It gives you enhanced functionality. So for your basic level user, you want to just use the app because that's the easiest. For an advanced user, I recommend TweetDeck. It allows you to sort through various timelines. It allows you to look at hashtags. It allows you to analyze information in a much more effective way. And it allows you to schedule tweets. So you should use that. And there are also other third-party tools. There's a tool called Hootsuite, Hootsuite, Hootsuite. That also allows you to do similar stuff, but that's not owned by Twitter. That's a separate company, but it's verified. So just search for any verified partners and then only use those tools. Don't use any third-party tools that are not verified. As far as influencing trending, that's not true. It's not, again, like I was saying, it's a complex algorithm, so it depends on velocity of tweet, and it depends on a bunch of different factors. It depends on what else is happening in the world. So there's no kind of hack around that, really. I think this gentleman had a, Sucheta, I think this gentleman had a question, and he's had his hand up.
How do I avoid someone tagging me unnecessarily? Because it might be something which is totally irrelevant to what I am or what I do. And this is just because I don't want to be rude and block him. So is there any way I can do that?
So okay, so in terms of being rude, if he's tagging you unnecessarily in tweets, then he's being a little bit rude as well. So I think it's okay to block him. He or she is not going to see that you've blocked them, so they're not going to know that you've blocked them, so don't worry about being rude. But in terms of kind of not having them tag you, that's not easy to do. It's just like if someone has your phone number, they can message you as much as they want. You can't kind of stop them from messaging, but you can mute them. So just like you could mute them on WhatsApp.
If I mute or block them,
they don't know. To tag me. No, and they don't know you. They will be able to tag you, you just won't see it.
So consequently, no one will.
No, that's not true. Everyone else will be able to see it, only you won't be able to see it.
That's why I'm afraid.
That's why you should do live video. Live video.
I would suggest you want to bring your colleagues on the stage and introduce them.
Yeah,
Some
absolutely.
people want to talk to
sure,
them.
Sure. Cheryl, Priya, do you want to guys come up on stage? I'll do a quick introduction of you. So my colleagues were kind enough to join me today. So we're going to still hang around after this for a bit, so you can come to any of us and ask us more questions. Cheryl works with me, Cheryl Ankuto works with me on the entertainment team, and she is responsible for working with everyone from authors all the way through to film production houses and celebrities, and helping them understand how to use the platform and make the best use of the platform. And like I said, Priya Nixon is working with us on the support team, and she's really responsible for making sure that the health on the platform is positive. If there's abuse happening on the platform, she helps monitor that, and then helps our people, users and publishers kind of report cases that they need to report and things like that. So she's the front line of all of those issues that you've asked about. So feel free to ask any of us more questions. We'll be around for a little bit more. Thank you so much for your attention. You all have been such an interesting and interested audience. So thank you so much.
Very much. It was a wonderful session. I think a lot of learning even for those of us who use it regularly. So thank you so much for taking the time to come here. I also need to thank Saraswat Bank for giving us this wonderful audience. As you can see, the response has been wonderful, and they allow us to do these seminars.